You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dumler, Broncos country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Get on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
Hello there, Broncos country, and it is once again time for another episode of Building the Broncos. I am your host, Carl Dumler, and with me, as always, I have my co-host and good friend, Mr. Nick Kendell. Nick, how you doing out there, buddy?
Hey, doing pretty well. Weather is great. Going to Colorado next week. Going to be very busy with a bunch of wedding stuff, so you'll be, I don't know if you're bringing on a guest, but you'll be without me next week, so I'm going to make the most of it and enjoy our time together in our 2 episodes today.
All right. Yeah, I'm excited for you getting out there and being in God's country,
as they say.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. I get to go out there in August and spend, about 4 or 5 days out there. So I'm ready for that and get a little bit of hiking in, go maybe climb a 14er. Are you going to do any of that?
I think it is still way too snow covered because of the amount of late snow they had. And that's one reason we're experiencing so much flooding. Not we, but you and right. Arkansas and whatnot are experiencing so much flooding because the snowpack took longer to melt. So I don't think that's in the cards. And I also don't know if we have time. We have so many meetings and things that we have to do for the wedding. So I'm just excited. It looks like we'll have a couple days to hike, but not gonna have time for long speak or something like that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you'll get to have that good time next week. And I do plan on having a couple guests. I'll keep that a secret for right now of who they're going to be. But looking forward to what we'll have for the upcoming times. But also, I just want to make sure for today that you can find us on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler, MHH. Of course, you can find Nick at Nick Kendell, MHH. And you can find the podcast Twitter account at BTB Football Pod. And make sure you subscribe to our show and leave us a rating as we value your input. You can find the show on iTunes, Stitcher, and even that of YouTube. Also, make sure you head on over to Mile High Huddle, an affiliate of 24/7 Sports and the CBS Sports Digital, to find ours and our co-writers' articles and all things pertaining to your Denver Broncos. Now, if you enjoy our show, make sure you head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating where Building the Broncos, along with Huddle Up, are found under the Huddle Up podcast. This podcast is powered by Overtime Media. So we had a fan recently ask if we would be willing to do some power rankings of the NFL teams and just kind of go through what we saw them do this offseason, good or bad, and kind of try and decide where we would put them and how we think maybe this season is going to play out just a little bit. I mean, everything it changes all the time. You're going to have some major injuries that happen. I mean, Patriots lose Tom Brady. They go from a top 3 team to what?
Middle of the pack. I mean, yeah, they're not going to all of a sudden become so terrible because they still have the best coach in football. And they still have some other good players on their team. But it still shows. I mean, an injury here or there can really change the entire outlook of the NFL and so many new pieces, rookies, everything else. It's always a subjective thing that we're going through here. But let's get into this. And you and I, we differ a little bit. The last episode, we didn't differ very much. This one, we're going to actually differ quite a bit. I mean, not huge drops on too many of these teams or gains or anything like that, but there's still some differences. But at the top, or at the bottom, I guess you would say, 32, we both have the exact same team, Miami Dolphins. Why do you put them last in the NFL? Well, their offensive line outside of Laramie Tunsil is not great. Their weapons are not great. Their defense is not great. And as much as I'm a Josh Rosen fan, their quarterback is not great. So just a whole lot of not greatness going on. And again, playing in a division where I think the Jets, team that's I like the young quarterback, and they added some pieces this offseason, some talent. I'm not sure the stability is there or anything like that, but a team that I think got better. And the Bills, I think a dark horse team this season, and the Patriots. So really, I mean, Dolphins, yikes. I do like the direction they're going. I like Flores. I like them getting Rosen for, a second-round pick, third-round pick. And they have some pieces that I do like, but overall this is just a roster that's super limited on talent, and I think it's going to be a long season in South Beach.
I'm with you. I mean, there's no big move that they made that I'm sitting here saying this is awesome. This is something that really is going to take them to the next level. The Josh Rosen move, I like that long term. I don't like it for this year. Just you got a second-year player who had struggled in his first year, not all his fault. And then again, you got other pieces around him that are just not that great, like you said, when you're looking at the roster and just so many holes on this team. I mean, Flores really stepped in a pile of crap, and now he's got to put some shine on it and hope he can do something with it. And we'll just kind of see how the season progresses for them. But for the most part, yeah, I do see them as one of the major players for that first overall pick in the draft this next year.
Yeah, and if they do, probably quarterback, even though they traded for Rosen. So maybe 3 teams for 3 years for Rosen. But
oh man,
we'll see. We'll see. Now, who knows? They could turn it around. This is very superficial, but we're just giving our take at this point before even training camp has started. So who knows?
Right. All right. So 31. This is where we begin our disagreements. You have the New York Giants.
The New York Football Giants, in the words of Chris Berman.
There you go. And I have same division but different team, Washington Redskins. What do you see in the Giants that makes you go, man, this team, this is not good?
Well, I don't really like I feel like it's a very Saquon Barkley dependent roster and offense. Eli Manning and Daniel Jones, don't think that's a great quarterback situation, and they're paying him a good amount. I do think they've taken steps in the right direction on the offensive line, which should be a help. But, man, I don't like their weapons, getting rid of – or passing weapons, that is. Evan Ingram, I'm a fan, but he's a tight end can only take an offense so far, in my opinion, unless you're the damn Patriots and Gronkowski's generational talent. So, Sterling Shepard's solid, but they got rid of OBJ. And then on defense, I mean, who's getting after the passer? I don't like this roster, and I think the defense is really lacking as well. And then Eli Manning, not great. Daniel Jones, not great. The whole thing just smells funky to me, and I don't trust him.
I'm with you. The reason I have Washington here, I mean, you look at the quarterback position, you got Case Keenum. We saw what he was last year. You got a rookie. Alex Smith, I don't know what his situation is right now.
He's not playing. There's no way.
Yeah. And, I mean, I do like a couple of their signings. Landon Collins, that's a huge signing for him. Beyond that, there wasn't really much more that they added to this roster other than through the draft. I did like their draft. I will say that. But now with the talk of Trent Williams wanting out of town, and you could have Eric Flowers as their starting left tackle when the season kicks off.
Not great, Bob.
Nope. That's how you get – well, I mean, they might be going through a couple quarterbacks here very quickly if he's the starter for them. And so just looking at some of the chaos, you're starting to see players really speaking out against how the front office is running things, of how their training staff works, all that kind of stuff is really coming through. There's just not a lot to like here.
I like their defense.
I do too. There's some pieces there, but I also, I mean, and this could apply to the Giants too. It's a tougher division when you have the Cowboys and the Eagles, who are looking like two teams that could really be competitors this year. So that could be really 4 tough games, and then you're looking at maybe splits between these two teams. I'm with you on liking the defense a little bit. But even there, I mean, there's other defenses I would take over them. And I think that there's a lot of offenses that can still give them some trouble here. But I don't know. I guess the chaos of everything that's going on with them, you don't even know who your starting quarterback's going to be. It could be Colt McCoy of all people.
That's who Our Lads has listed number 1 right now. Yeah.
And you got Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins. You don't know what any of those guys are going to be. Alex Smith injured. If he was playing, I'd have him a lot higher.
Yeah, but we'll see about that.
Yeah.
So if he ever plays again.
Right. And some of their weapons, Adrian Peterson, how much longer can he go? Darius Geis, is he going to be back to full strength? Chris Thompson, is he going to be back up to full strength? And then you look at their wide receiver core. Josh Doxson's been okay. Paul Richardson's their number 2 receiver, and he's just been in and out of injuries left and right. Jordan Reed's been in and out of injuries. Offensive line wise, there's some guys I really like.
Hey now, guy you love.
Okay, yes, guy that I really want to have on the Broncos next year, Brandon Scherf.
Oh man, I don't know if I could pay a guard that much, but he's unbelievable.
Yes, it would take our offensive line, I think, to easily top 10 if you add him to the group.
Really depends on the tackle's health. One of them health, and one of them taking the next step. And
okay, it's true, but if you add a piece like him, it's just it's a nice piece to add.
Absolutely.
And like I said, if Trent Williams is there, then I'd have him ranked higher. But it doesn't sound like he's going to be there.
Yeah.
And so when you lose maybe one of the top 10 players in the NFL, that's a huge blow, especially at that left tackle position. That guy he is so good.
He is.
I don't know if there's many left. Is there any left tackles you take over him right now? Tyron Smith, maybe?
David Bakhtiari.
Okay.
Yeah, best pass blocking tackle in the game. And I mean, it's crazy because I mean, how good is a singular offensive lineman impact a team? That's a real question because one of the best emerging tackles in football, going back and watching some tape, Laramie Tunsil at left tackle for the Dolphins there's an obvious reason a lot of people thought he'd be a very high pick and fell on that whole gas mask smoking, smoking the marijuana thing.
That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in the NFL.
Yeah, that was something. Talk about some draft day drama. But yeah, that's something that I really think Tunsil's a good player. Taylor Lewan, really talented as well. But I'd probably, gun to the head, one game. If you're making me take a left tackle, it's probably David Bakhtiari.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, okay. But moving on here, because we got a lot of teams to get to. I do then have the Giants at 30. So it's not like we're that far off on our ranking there. I just have Washington a little bit lower than you do. And we'll get to where you have them. But at 30, then you have the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
And the team with 3 first-round picks. Some of them were a little bit laughable what they did. But looking at their roster, I guess what makes you sit there and say, yeah, they're still going to be a bottom dweller this year?
I just really don't like their defense and their playmakers on offense. I mean, yeah, you got Antonio Brown, yes, but I'm curious to see how that transition goes because a lot of what he did in Pittsburgh was option routes that were built on chemistry with Big Ben. They both have to read the field correctly to work out those option routes, and that I'm not sure how much that's going to translate with Derek Carr, at least early on. Josh Jacobs, first-round pick on running back, okay, but after that, I don't love it, and the offensive line, while it used to be a major boon to that team, you got Trent Brown, solid, good player. I really like Rodney Hudson as well, but Colton Miller, not great. The rest of the offensive line is a major question mark. And then the defense. I mean, Arden Key, okay, young guy, maybe getting after quarterback. Clellan Ferrell, okay, we'll see. Maurice Hurst, up and down with the heart condition, but that back seven is not great. I mean, Markel Lee, 5th-round pick for a reason. Brandon Marshall, I mean, I don't wish him, ill will or anything, but definitely his best years behind him. Speaking about best years behind him, Vontae is perfect. I don't even know who's going to play cornerback. I like Garyon Conley, but after that, it's bad. I mean, and you got 2 pretty early rookies there in the back end as well, Jonathan Abram and Trayvon Mullen. So we'll see with that. But man, the back 7 is not great, and I do not love the pass rush depth as well. So, and relying on 2 rookies, Max Crosby and Clellan Ferrell, I don't know. And I don't really like Gruden as a coach. I like him as a broadcaster, fun personality, but coach, I don't buy it. So we'll see. Right.
I'm with you. I have them a little bit higher. We'll get to that place where I have them. I have the Giants here at 30. And like I said earlier, and I'm with you. This roster for the Raiders, just not looking good. Derek Carr, good, not great quarterback. He can only carry you so far, as we've seen. When he doesn't have as much talent around him, he struggles at times. And you said the chemistry of the team. It just seemed like they did complete polar opposites of what they did with the draft with what they did with free agency.
Yeah.
You go and say in the draft, we want these high character players, and then you go sign Incognito. we'll see how that works out. I mean, and Antonio Brown, Vontaze Perfect. I mean, all these guys that are known as huge locker room cancers that even their own teams were having a lot of troubles with them, didn't want them anymore, just too much of a headache. And, let's put them all in one locker room. And if this team starts losing games early on, watch the fireworks because it's going to get crazy.
Yeah, well, that's definitely something to look out for. They did get some character guys in the draft, though, so we'll see. I'm almost curious. Not I'm almost curious. I'm very curious to see how the relationship with Mayock and Gruden kind of takes place here. I feel like that is, I don't know. It sounds like there might already be some gruffness there between them. So we'll see.
Right. Well, and it's listening to some people talk. Mayock has more of a submissive personality.
Maybe.
Where Gruden is, alpha dog, my way or the highway kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see how those two, because I did hear that they had a lot of disagreements about the draft and which way they wanted to go, and we heard that last year with the Raiders that there was two different boards and one board always won out. So it will. That whole situation could be it's either going to be just outstanding and surprises everybody, or it's just going to fall flat on its face and you're going to go laughing at the Raiders for giving Gruden a 10-year contract.
Yep, 100% guaranteed.
All right, well, at 29, you have the Cincinnati Bengals, and I have the Arizona Cardinals. I guess looking at the Bengals roster, what in there makes you go, this is not a good situation, that they're going to be a bottom 5 team here in the NFL?
Again, I feel like there's a lot of bad back sevens right now in football, and I do like some of the Bengals cornerbacks and whatnot. AJ Green's a good player also on the offense, but Jonah Williams apparently has been up and down in camp for them, and that's definitely a concern for them. Their offensive line was trash last year. And how bad were the Broncos last year, right? That's something to talk about. The Broncos wiped the floor with the Bengals, and I don't think they improved that much. New coach, it's a complete unknown. One of those guys that, there's some questions. Did he earn it, or was it association with Sean McVay? So we'll see. I do like Tyler Boyd. He's a fun player. John Ross, no idea what's going to be with him. And tight end, not great. Taking Drew Sample in the second round, major reach. I don't think Andy Dalton's that good of a player. I do really like Joe Mixon. I think he's a very good player, but again, how important actually is that running back position? I don't know. And then, really though, it's the defense. I love Jesse Bates. I really like William Jackson, but their linebacker core, it was trash last year, and I do like Jermaine Pratt, but Nick Vigil, Preston Brown, Jordan Evans, Malik Jefferson looked like a horrible pick for them. And then the edge, the pass rush depth. Jordan Willis, Sam Hubbard, Carlos Dunlap. I don't know. Geno Atkins, a much older player. I just don't think they're a very talented roster or a very good team, and they don't really have a transcendental talent at a super valuable position to kind of take over. So
right,
yeah,
I'm with you. There's a few pieces, but it seems like every position is lacking any kind of depth. You get any kind of injuries, which, hey, the Bengals are known for a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And a lot of their top players are getting up there in age. AJ Green's getting up there. He's been injured the last couple of years, like you said. Geno Atkins getting into his 30s. How much longer can he continue to be that pass rush specialist for him? The guy that they keep waiting to emerge, Carl Lawson, keeps getting injured, which was what he was known for coming out of college. And offensive line wise, they got a couple pieces in place that you're kind of going, well, that could be something with Jonah Williams. Maybe, like you said, he's been struggling, but we'll see how he handles himself. Billy Price, I like him at center.
He's not looked great in the NFL though.
Right, I understand, but I do expect him to take another step this year.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm saying. But beyond that, you're looking at the rest of that offensive line when you got Bobby Hart at right tackle and you're going, oh my gosh, please let Von Miller go and have some fun with this guy.
Yeah.
So, I understand why you have him down here. I am just a little bit higher at 27. And most of these teams here, we have them pretty close. It's just little details here and there that have us having a little bit of differing. We'll have some bigger ones as we go throughout here. But moving on here, you have then the the Detroit Lions at 28. This is where I have the Raiders ranked. And so just a little bit higher than what you have them. But Detroit, there's some people that were pretty excited about some of the moves that they made this offseason and some of the new pieces that were added. TJ Hawkinson, one of your boys, and some different things that they've done here to strengthen this roster. I guess, where do you see the real weaknesses here?
For me, I don't think that Matt Patricia is a great head coach at all. Maybe that's just listening to the media and how he handles them, but very gruff and not a super dynamic person as far as a play caller, kind of more of that motivator type, the mad scientist, whatever they call him. Hard pass for me on that end. And then while I do like some of their weapons, I feel like their passing game is not very versatile. Kenny Galladay is kind of a very Cortland Sutton-esque, actually. But then you got Marvin Jones as well. Yeah, after that, the wide receiver depth, not great. They just signed Jermaine Kearse. They have Danny Amendola, but both those guys older, not great anymore. So I don't love the wide receiver position for them. Kerryon Johnson, a guy who's been hurt a lot. And I do like TJ Hawkinson, obviously, and I think Matt Stafford's a pretty good quarterback, but I don't know, it just doesn't come across as very dynamic on offense. On defense, I do like the defensive line a decent amount, but they're much more, I feel like, big bodies rather than guys who can really get after the passer. I really like Damon Harrison as a nose tackle, but again, getting after the quarterback. Ashawn Robinson, same thing, a lesser extent. Deshaun Hand, pretty good last year, but again, is getting after the quarterback. They paid Trey Flowers all that money. And then linebacker core and the Pac-7, man, a recurring theme here. But Darius Slay has been sitting out. He wants a new contract, so that's definitely a concern. He's a top 10, top 15 cornerback, but I mean, Jared Davis doesn't look good. Kennard, Christian Jones, Miles Killebrew, Jalen Tabor, the back seven is really, really not good.
And they're in a tough division.
Yeah, well, that on top of it.
Right. I'm with you. I have them just a little bit higher again. I have them at 25. But I could see a lot of these teams being bottom three.
Yeah.
Any of these teams. And then,
I mean, one injury could change it.
Right, exactly. And I guess I just believe a little bit more in Matthew Stafford and his ability to cover up some of the warts of this roster. I mean, you and I talked, 2 weeks ago? You asked me if he was available for trade, if I would trade for him.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was no question. Yes. Yes, I would trade for him because he's on that second, third tier of quarterbacks that just really can do a lot of things on the field for you. That, like I said, he can cover up a lot of things because he's just so superior. His arm superior, his kind of improvising. He's one of those guys, he can make throws from different arm angles, all those kind of things that you like to see sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah.
And so I just, like I said, I just have him just a hair higher than you. And now here's one that you have higher than I do, finally. And you have the Arizona Cardinals at 27. I have them clear back at 29. And for me, it's mostly I don't like their coaching staff. Their best player is suspended to start the season for the first 6 games, and Patrick Peterson. Offensive line doesn't look that great. Defensively, there's very little depth. There's just a lot of things there that, I mean, I know they got Kyler Murray, and he can kind of cover up some different things, but it's still a rookie. You don't know how he's going to do. I'm interested to see what he does going from maybe the best line in college football to now maybe the worst line in the NFL.
Yeah.
How does that change his game when he's have to make a lot of decisions a lot faster than he ever did in college? And so I have them ranked a little bit lower. I just think this is going to be another year of struggle for them. And but I mean, you still have them struggling too, being here at 27. Anything else that you would add to what they have there, or what they're lacking, or why maybe you have them a little higher than I do?
I'm just going for the early flash and teams kind of trying to figure out and adapt to the air raid and the explosiveness of Kyler Murray. So I think they will. It's kind of that RG3 rookie year kind of thing, where it's just like it's a little different and it's new. And I don't know if it's sustainable, but I think they'll get that early season, first year shot in the arm. But I could see them picking first overall next year. I mean, it's a team that has a lot of question marks and a lot of questions on the roster. So I don't disagree.
All right. Well, then we get to the New York Jets. And it's funny because they have two of the players from the last two drafts that you and I have absolutely loved, or one for me, one for you. And they got Quinnen Williams this past draft. They got Sam Darnold the draft before that for the quarterback position. And yet here we still have them ranked so low. Is this the Adam Gase factor?
That's part of it, and it's also the rookie quarterback factor, or former rookie quarterback. You know, we talked about the quarterback tiers, still an unknown, and Darnold's got to take that next step. So that's a wait and see on that one.
Right. Well, and you had said it when we were talking about Sam Darnold that he just doesn't have a whole lot of weapons around him either.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got Le'Veon Bell, but beyond that, Robbie Anderson's your top wide receiver.
And I do want to say I kind of insulted their weapons last time, but I forgot one of my draft guys that I really like to. I need to pat myself on the back when I get somebody that's right, especially when they're a value. But Chris Herndon, I think he was like a 4th or 5th round pick, and he's looking like maybe even a tight end one eventually. So pat myself on the back on that one.
There you go. Take it when you got it.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta. If you're not your biggest fan, who is going to be that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Mom, thank you for listening. But no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no.
Your mom listens?
I wish I could say yes, but she would. I don't know if she listens to any podcast, so gotta get her on that.
My parents have asked me a few times how to get to the podcast, and I keep showing them, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot how to do that."
Is this where it dials up? No, it's not. All right, but yeah, no, and then just Gase. Who knows? Didn't want Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell. I mean, there's questions there with work ethic. I mean, how big is he? Is he going to be in football shape? Yeah, I don't know. The defense, though, I do like what the defense looks like on paper, especially that front. I mean, Leonard Williams is a former, I think it was 5th overall pick when he came out, and he was looking really good last year. I mean, he made Connor McGovern his son on more than a few plays. Quinnen Williams, obviously, and they got some pass rush. I do like Jamal Adams a lot, and obviously C.J. Mosley, Avery Williamson, but I don't know. That offense is still a question mark for me, and how great is Adam Gase going to be? You know, I don't mind him as a play caller. I think he did decent with a pretty poor roster at Miami, but just the power tripping going on and whatnot, it feels McDaniels-esque, so we'll see.
Yeah, and by the way, you were way off on where Leonard Williams was drafted. He was not 5th overall, it was 6th overall.
Oh, excuse me. 5th overall would have been Amari Cooper, I believe. No, he went 4th.
I was going to say he was 4th.
I don't even remember. Oh, was that Brandon Scherf? I don't know. I think it might have been Brandon Scherf.
Okay. Yeah, I think you might be right there. But I just wanted to make sure that we had that correction.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me. Pardon me.
But, yeah, I actually like a lot of their pieces that they have. But like you said, that coaching staff for me just really brings them down. Missing some weapons on the offense. Offensive line-wise, probably bottom 10.
Maybe bottom 5.
Yeah, so not a great group in front of them to protect the young quarterback. That's definitely got to be their next focus is how do we protect our quarterback and get him some weapons.
Yeah.
They've got the defense built up pretty well with Jamal Adams being one of the great young safeties for sure. Like you said, C.J. Mosley being added. Although it is so crazy, your coach, after all your big signings, comes out and says, I didn't like those. How do you do that? I mean, we go from the Broncos coaches who are, hey, let's have a field day to get everybody bonded together to a coach that says, I don't really like the players we added. Spent too much money.
Just power tripping, man.
Yep,
I don't know.
Yeah. Just shows the major difference in some of those things that are going on around the NFL. And so then we get to 25 for you. You have the Washington Redskins. I have the Detroit Lions here.
Yeah.
And we've kind of already talked about them. So we're going to kind of skip over that here just a little bit. And then we get to 24, and you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I have Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess part of it for me, I like Bruce Arians enough to put Tampa Bay higher than Tennessee.
All right.
I just like his boost for what I think he's going to do for their quarterback situation and what they can do on offense.
compared to Mariota, who just has never lived up to the hype. I mean, we're talking about the number 1, number 2 overall pick here in the same draft, and neither quarterback has really lived up to the hype of what many thought. Many thought that was going to be a great quarterback draft there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any issue with it, obviously, because they're back to back for me. But Tampa Bay, I just think they have such a decrepit defense, and the NFC South is extremely talented. I know the AFC South is on the rise, but NFC South arguably the best division in football. So I go with Tampa Bay here. But I mean, Bruce Arians, we'll see. I don't love Tampa Bay's offensive line and the defense. I mean, is Shaq Barrett their best pass rusher? I mean, no offense to Shaq Barrett, but that's not great. And then they keep throwing damn names at the wall for the defensive backs, and they just keep striking out there. So I like the Tennessee defense much more on paper, at least, and they flash more. And I mean, they're not even going to see Jeffrey Simmons this year, but Harold Landry, Jarrell Casey, decent, versatile defensive backfield. The defense and the division are the main reason I tend to lean into the Titans instead of the Bucs.
Okay. Like I said, for me, it's the coaching staff and quarterback is as much as Winston has struggled. I think he's been at least showing better flashes than Mariota. And Mariota might not even be the starter this year.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill, man, we'll talk about a quarterback battle of the century.
That is the top story of NFL. No. But no, we'll get to our next group of 12 teams here in just a second, but we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, and welcome back to the Building the Broncos podcast with Nick and me, Carl. And we're going to continue our list of the power rankings of the NFL. Made it through the first 8 teams, and now we're going to get to the middle of the pack. These are those teams that, if a couple things go right, maybe could make their way up into that playoff tier of teams. If a couple things go wrong, they could be a top 5 pick. It's kind of hard to tell with some of these teams, and it's crazy in the NFL how much things can change from one year to the next. But looking at number 23 for you, you have Tennessee Titans. We just talked about it. I have Tampa Bay. So we just have those two reversed. Nothing too crazy there. And so now getting on to number 22, you have San Francisco 49ers, and here I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I guess you and I have these two reversed. What do you like about Jacksonville more than you do San Francisco?
The offensive play design and the quarterback position and just stability of the franchise right now. I mean, you got guys all across that Jacksonville defense that are talking about holding out or not going to be here this year, from Telvin Smith to Yannick Ngakoue to Jalen Ramsey. That just seems like there's a lot of unrest in Jacksonville right now. And I'll probably, I don't know, the offensive system overall with the Niners, I'm going to lean into that. I think that's the way to go. I think that's, maybe I'm selling myself on this West Coast Shanahan offense and overexposure there is kind of leaning me that way. But I also, I mean, I don't really love the defensive back seven of the Niners, but D Ford, DeForest Buckner, who's an emerging freaking stud, and Nick Bosa, and Solomon Thomas there too, and Eric Armstead. I think they're going to be able to do a little bit. They're going to be able to do enough up front to kind of cover up that back seven, and then with a very fun offensive scheme that, again, is not having to deal with C.J. Beathard or Nick Mullins. And even though Jimmy Garoppolo is still a relative unknown, I think that's easy to say that's an upgrade. I lean into that, and just the turmoil in Jacksonville has me questioning there. It doesn't seem like a stable selection.
So you're reversing from what you actually wrote down? You have San Francisco behind.
Yes, actually, I definitely. Yeah, I think I'll go with the 49ers. Actually, I'll agree with you there.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no, that's talking about it. Obviously, some of these, when they're right by each other, it could go either way. It's like, oh, which one? That one makes sense. Filling it out there.
I like this piece of poop better than this one.
Yeah, tiers probably. Again, it's like when you're doing a fantasy draft. When you're ranking them, if they're side by side, a better way to do it is to do a tier board. But that's not as fun for the listeners, so we got to have hardcore ranks. So I'll lean with the Niners, but I think it's a coin toss.
All right, well, then we get to the dreaded number 20.
And unfortunately, I agree with you on this spot, and we have the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
And I think they're a team that they have enough promise of some things. I mean, building on the defense, you got the new coaching staff here that has much better scheme than the last coaching staff. So I do expect the defense to have a few nicer things going on. I like what they've done with the secondary. And there's just a couple pieces missing there. Still, there's not really much of an athleticism at the linebacker spot. Off-ball linebacker, I guess I should say.
Edge versus linebacker. That's the way you need to start classifying that.
Right, exactly. But, I mean, looking at the offense, it's still Joe Flacco. He's an upgrade, but not a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
And they've added some nice pieces in, obviously, Noah Fant, but you don't know what he's going to be as a rookie. Offensive line still looks like it's a huge question mark. I mean, as much as I've heard them struggling in OTAs and minicamp, I mean, I know I shouldn't read too much into that, but it's still the warning alarms are going off a little bit here.
Yeah.
That they're still missing some major pieces to get that group to where you want them to be.
Indeed.
And so 20 sounds about right.
Yeah, and it could be higher. I don't know. I could see like going from the list here anywhere from 24 to 16 seems about right. So an air bar of 4 rankings on here, but 20th overall that have them picking, if this was the draft order that had them picking about 12 overall, that seems right to me. But again, it's a team with a lot of unknowns, so we'll see. But they got to prove it in actual gameplay. Going up against their own teammates and without pads on and OTAs, what does that really show you? That's don't read too much into that, I guess. Is
right.
What say. So we'll see.
Right. So then we get to number 19, and you and I both agree on this one as well, Baltimore Ravens. And for me, this comes down to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I just don't trust him as a passer. I think they added some nice weapons, but I don't think they're a very good fit with him. Defensively, they did lose some pieces. Some of them were a little bit aging pieces. So, I mean, how much were they really going to make an impact? But it's still, you're having to replace some guys there.
Definitely leadership.
Right.
And they did bring in Earl Thomas.
They did. But again, he's been injured a lot lately.
Yes, he has.
So how long is he going to hold up? I like their secondary, but again, Jimmy Smith's been injured a lot. So can he hold up for an entire season? Pass rush wise, you're starting to get some different names in there that have never. I mean, you got Tyus Bowser, you got Chris Wormley, who had a decent year, but nothing too special. You got Matthew Judon, Tim Williams. I mean, so it's not the vaunted defense that it's been sometimes in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, they're I don't know. Lamar Jackson, we'll see what he does this season, but just erratic as a thrower, and it looks like a potential to be a hyped up version of the Broncos with Tebow. And that's definitely insulting to Jackson, but I guess we'll see. Last year it looked pretty anemic especially when they took away some of those run game reads. So they'll be a fun team as far on the ground, kind of a totally different style of offense, which is, I mean, it's cool to see an NFL team doing that, but I just don't trust Jackson, and I don't think the defense has enough true difference makers that I feel comfortable with them. But we'll see. I mean, Harbaugh is one of the better coaches in the game, so who knows?
All right, and so now here we have one of our biggest differences in rankings. And you have the Carolina Panthers here at 18. I have the Dallas Cowboys.
Man, pretty low there, Carl.
On the Cowboys?
Yeah. I don't like the Cowboys as a team, but I think that's a pretty talented roster.
I think it's a talented roster. I don't trust their coaching staff a whole lot.
Yeah. I really like Marinelli.
I like Marinelli. I don't like their head coach.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Jason Witten, way up there in age. How much is he really going to contribute this year? They do have some nice receiving options for Dak Prescott. And, of course, offensive line-wise, probably still going to be one of the stronger units in all of football. Mm-hmm. So can't argue with them there. I do question a little bit some of their defensive line suspensions. how good that defensive line is going to be. I do like, obviously, their linebacker core, one of the best in football.
If not the best.
Yeah, exactly. But then you get to their secondary, and Byron Jones is pretty good.
I was going to say, I'm not here for this Byron Jones blasphemy.
He's good. I'm not going to try to take away from him. But Awuzie is okay. He's not anything that really jumps off the page at me. And then safety and free safety, Woods and Heath,
Yeah, replaceable.
I think they can get lit up.
I think you're too low on DeMarcus Lawrence. He's a top 5 edge rusher in football right now. Paid like it, at least. And watching him against the Broncos, he was killer a few years ago. I mean, he's really quite special as a player. And then what they can do with those linebackers as far as the coverage and speed, especially with Van Der Esch taking another step forward, Jalen Smith another year removed from that drop knee. I don't know, man. That Dallas defense really impressed me last year. And obviously with Crawford being suspended and David Irving quitting football, that is a concern. But I think that, is Gregory suspended again?
Oh yeah,
he is. Okay. Well, that's definitely a concern. But I don't know, man. They looked really good last year, and the offense totally revitalized with Amari Cooper there. And didn't even mention Ezekiel Elliott, who's, from my book, the second best running back in football. And Dak Prescott playing on a contract year. So I think wouldn't call them Super Bowl contenders, but I think they are a team that, talent-wise, on paper, pushing that top 10.
I guess for me, it really is that coaching staff. I've always felt like they've just underperformed a lot of years.
That's fair. Definitely. And just they totally looked different last year with Cooper there. It really opened up the offense. So we'll see.
Right.
Losing, who was that little slot receiver they just lost? He signed with
shoot.
I can pick Beasley.
Yep.
We'll see if that kind of losing that security blanket will affect Dak, because he's definitely not a gun it out, throw it deep kind of guy, but we'll see. I definitely, and I like that defense. I think they can do so much with those linebackers, so we'll see.
All right. Well, like I said, I have Dallas a little bit lower than you. I have Carolina quite a bit higher than you do.
Yeah.
So this is one of our biggest disagreements, is these two teams right here.
Carolina is one we didn't even talk about. I'm just talking Dallas, but Carolina, I know Cam was back in practices today, and something about a new throwing motion, which, hello, alarm bells. What is that saying about the shoulder? So I don't know. And I don't love the Carolina offensive line. I know they brought in Paradis, but still that's a major concern. And who's he throwing it to? Christian McCaffrey can only do so much. Greg Olsen is older. I don't even think who. We'll see with him, I guess. There was definitely the lure of the booth, and then DJ Moore. I don't know.
I'm a DJ Moore fan.
Yeah.
So I really like him. Curtis Samuel. I don't know. It's kind of weird seeing him as the number 2 receiver right now.
Yeah.
Since he was more of a running back in college.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that kind of plays out for him. I guess I like they've worked hard to get weapons that fit well with Cam Newton.
Yeah,
guys that can really do a lot of different things with a lot of speed, can get open in a hurry, all those kind of things. I like Greg Olsen. I like Ian Thomas as their backup tight end as well. And so even if the offensive line is not great, they got a lot of guys that can get the ball out of the hands of Cam real quick.
Is that the best fit for Cam?
One could argue some of that is because of, again, some of the injuries that he's had.
Yeah.
Getting the ball out of his hand in a hurry could be a very good thing. And I think Cam's been at times a little underrated with what he's done on the field.
He's arguably the best. Go ahead.
You just see a lot of the things that he can't do, and you kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, then that guy's not a great quarterback. But even last year, he still had 24 touchdown passes, had 4 rushing touchdowns. 28 touchdowns in total for him.
Yeah.
And that was a down year.
Yeah, I think I remember reading some statistical analysis, but he's the best red zone weapon in NFL history.
Right.
Because of what he's able to do in those packages.
Right.
And the best goal line weapon in NFL history. So really a unique player.
And then for me, I mean, you look at that defense. There's some nice pieces on that defense. The defensive line. I mean, we'll see what Brian Burns can do. Quan Short, gotta love him, of course. They just added McCoy, so I mean, another nice piece there. Linebacker wise, they did lose Thomas Davis, but you still have Kuechly. Kuechly, sorry, Kuechly. I'll get that right one of these days.
One day, Luke Kuechly.
Luke Kuechly. There we go. Shaq Thompson, I like him as a player too. We'll see secondary wise. They got some younger pieces in there.
I like Bradbury and I like Jackson. Don't really love the safeties.
That's fair.
And
that is fair.
The depth at quarterback. So
yeah,
we'll see.
I don't know. There's just enough pieces there that I like.
Yeah,
that I'm willing to move them up a little bit and say that they're going to be a tough team this year.
Fair enough. I think the NFC South, my money for the best division in football. So that's, and again, Cam as well. So a lot of concerns there.
Right. Understandable. Yeah. All right. Well, 17, we both agree here. Buffalo Bills. Now this is a team with, I'd say, a lot of variance just because of Josh Allen. Kind of hard to know exactly what he's going to be. I'm not a huge believer in him, but he did enough last year to make you kind of go, maybe. But then it's really that defense. They added Ed Oliver. Oh my goodness, love that piece.
Yeah,
that was great. Tremaine Edmonds, another year for him. You got some pretty good safeties there. Secondary looks very nice, especially with Tre'Davious White. You got Jerry Hughes, who I think is one of the more underrated players on defense. So there's enough pieces there on defense and their coaching staff that I'm kind of like, I like this team.
Yeah, I do. The offensive line
they could do what?
The offensive line for me is a big thing for them as well.
Yeah.
Brought in Mitch Morse, who's a very good player. I actually met him at the Missouri Pro Day. And that's one glad to see him out of Kansas City. He's had some injuries, but really a talented player. Cody Ford, and then also Ty Nishke. Yeah, I think this is going to be a vastly improved offensive line.
Right.
And I don't love the weapons for them. I mean, they have the oldest running back group in football. Like
maybe
way
in football
old.
history.
Yeah, way old. But still kind of some fun players there.
Yeah,
I like Devin Singletary in the third round for them, but really it comes down to that defense. I mean, they were arguably a top 5 defense in football last year, partially because Sean McDermott is one of the best defensive coaches in football.
Right.
But, I mean, you got to love that they might have the best safety duo in football, at least the one, I think the most underrated safety duo in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. I remember doing work on them for when the Broncos played the Bills, and like those two guys are studs. And obviously adding Ed Oliver, very talented. They got some depth on that interior defensive line as well. And some good young linebackers. Matt Milano stands out. Lorenzo Alexander is a guy that they love a lot. And then Tremaine Edmonds. And then Tre'Davious White, one of the better young secondary players in football. So this is it's not an elite roster. And Josh Allen, he's Cam Newton light. Kind of use him in that same way. So I think the improved offensive line, Josh Allen getting a year better, and just a really good defense is the reason I have them where they're at.
Yep, that's me too. And then we get to 16 here. Now, this is another one of our big differences in rankings. We have Houston Texans here at 16. I have the Vikings here.
Yeah.
And then I have the Texans actually at 11.
Wow.
And I guess this is just I like a lot of the pieces that Houston has. I'm not a huge fan of their offensive line. They didn't do enough to fix that.
A huge fan. Carl.
Okay, it's terrible. It is downright terrible. Sorry. Let me correct myself. It is the downright terrible offensive line. Maybe the worst in football.
Yeah, it's bad.
But I do like Deshaun Watson. I think he's doing a lot of good things. Lamar Miller is okay. But I think they have pretty good depth there at the running back position. I like Foreman a lot. And then wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, for my money, top 2 receiver in football.
Yeah, he's so weird because he's like separation and the ability to run. Not that he's a bad route runner, but separation with your routes, whether it be agility, change direction, speed, etc. is so emphasized and becoming more emphasized, I think, in how the game is changing. But Hopkins is just, they don't make him like him. There's really nobody like him in the game.
And then you got Will Fuller, speed guy going down the field. He's got to work on his hands, things like that.
Got to work on staying on the field.
Well, yes, that too. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Kiki Kuti, I liked him in the draft as well. And so I think there's enough weapons there on offense. Jordan Thomas at the tight end positions. We'll see how he plays out this year.
Cahill Warren, their best draft pick.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Very good pick there. So I like the pieces that they have other than the offensive line. Defensively, I like a lot of their pieces on defense. J.J. Watt, obviously, I think he's really come back around in his career. Finally gotten healthy again. Clowney, another year for him, looking like what many people thought he was going to be when he was the first overall pick. I like their linebacker core as well.
Derek McKinney might be the most underrated linebacker in football.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about him. He's so good.
Yeah, exactly. And then Marcellus, the other side, not the best number 2 outside rusher, but still enough of a weapon that you kind of like what he can bring to the roster. I don't exactly like what they have at cornerback.
Oh, their best cornerback is, for my money, it's easily Bradley Roby.
Yeah.
Easily.
Which, Bronco fans, we all know he was one of the most frustrating players I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Because he could go out there and he would play like a top 5 cornerback one game and then look like a guy that didn't deserve to be on the roster the next week.
Maddeningly inconsistent.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see what he can do there for him.
I like Reed. That's about it for that secondary. The secondary and the offensive line to me are just too trash to have them anywhere besides middle of the pack.
Okay.
And I love Will Fuller. If Will Fuller can stay healthy, maybe bounce him up because I would love to have him in Denver healthy. But, man, I feel like I've seen it too many times where if your offensive line is so bad, you can get by with a D level offensive line. But if it's an F, it's just hard to do anything.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing for me there.
Okay. Hard to argue with that, but I do have them just a little bit higher. So then we get to number 15. You have the Minnesota Vikings. Like I said, I had them at 16. This is where I have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
And you have Pittsburgh a little bit higher than me. You have them at 12.
Yeah.
And I guess this is just a little bit of losing some of the weapons that they have. Ben Roethlisberger being another year older. I just don't know how much. He's one of those guys, his style of game leads to a faster breakdown than some of the other quarterbacks. And I'm interested to see how their offensive line functions without Munchak being there. I still expect it to be a good offensive line. I don't think they're going to feel the effects of that for maybe another 2-3 years. Kind of like the Broncos might not see complete results for another 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Of adding him to the coaching staff. But beyond that, James Conner, he's an okay running back. I don't think he's anything too special. I think he's more benefited by having some of the weapons around him and having such a great offensive line. But weapons-wise, I like it, but it's not when you lose a player like Antonio Brown, it just moves everybody else. Everybody else has to move up a spot. And so how do they move in their new spot? Juju Smith-Schuster, I expect him to be a good number 1 for him. I do.
Yeah, he's really good.
How it's more the guys behind him. I like Dante Moncrief, but he's not great. James Washington, I like him. Still has some struggles here and there. Ryan Switzer, again, I like the pieces. It's just nothing that really jumps out at me and says, man, this guy, yes, that's why you could get rid of Antonio Brown.
Deontay Johnson. We'll see.
Yeah.
Definitely wait and see on that. Yeah, I could see that. I just feel like they're such an established team, and they do have some toxicity in that locker room, but, getting rid of AB, I think Big Ben still has some good years left, and I like that defensive line. TJ Watt, really a good emerging edge rusher dynamic, pretty underrated right now, and I love that defensive line. Casey Hayward, Hargraves to it, and adding Devin Bush, that should help them a lot, I think, because last year I think the Steelers' number 1 and number 2 leaders in tackles were both safeties. So getting a guy like Bush who can fly around and rack up those before it gets to that level is going to be big for them. So that's where I got them. But I could see them going anywhere from, middle of the pack, 8-8, 9-7 to winning the AFC North.
Yeah, I'm with you. They were a tough one for me to figure out where to put them.
Yeah.
And so then we get to number 14, Seattle Seahawks. We both agree on this one. I mean, this is Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Without him, are they a bottom 10 team?
It depends on who you put at quarterback. But if he gets injured and whoever their backup is, I don't even know. Yes, but Pete Carroll's also pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've reestablished an identity there. The defense obviously isn't the Legion of Boom, but he's pretty darn good as well. And I do like some of those guys around Russell Wilson right now. I mean, they got some fun running backs there in Penny and Carson. DK Metcalf went there, but I mean, Tyler Lockett is emerging as an absolute stud. So I'm really excited to see what he can do this year. And defense, again, not as dynamic as it used to be, but they do a good job and play very disciplined and rotate those guys on the defensive line. So they're a team. Russell Wilson, obviously, having a top 4, top 3 quarterback definitely elevates them, but not the best roster outside of him.
Right. I'm with you. Definitely some missing pieces, but when you have an elite quarterback, it always bumps you up. Peyton Manning, you saw what happened when he got injured. Colts were the worst team in football.
Yeah.
With him, they're a top 5 team. So it's just how much a quarterback can make a difference. And then here we have the Cleveland Browns for you. I have one spot higher at number 12. I have Carolina here at 13. The Browns, we talked about it here on this podcast before. One of those teams, you just really have no clue how this is going to go.
Yeah.
This could be either a Super Bowl contender or it could just go up in flames. It kind of reminds me of the Eagles when they had their, what would they call their team?
Super team.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, they finished like 4-12?
Something like that.
Yeah. So it's just hard to know exactly what they're going to be and how they're going to play out for any kind of roster. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. It depends on how all these players can mesh together. Adding OBJ, I mean, that's maybe a top 5 wide receiver being added to the mix here. You got some good running backs, obviously. Jarvis Landry at wide receiver, Njoku, if he can take that next step, looking very good. Okay offensive line.
Yeah, I think the interior is pretty darn good.
Yeah, the interior looks good, but those tackles.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to see how they play out. And then defense, you added Vernon. We'll have to see what he still has left in the tank. Sheldon Richardson, he's so up and down, it's hard to tell. Myles Garrett, one of the top young pass rushers in football. Jannard Avery looked pretty darn good in his role last year.
Don't love the back 7.
Yeah.
Upside at cornerback.
They do. I mean, Greedy Williams just depends. If you ask him to tackle, it's not going to look pretty.
Yeah.
Coverage-wise, he can do some pretty good things. Denzel Ward had moments last year, but
I would say more than moments. He looked pretty darn good to me.
Okay, first half of the season, he looked really good. He got hurt a little bit, banged up, and then kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah. But normally rookie cornerbacks, don't look like he did. I guess the Marshawn Lattimore, that was a pretty special year, though, that draft, the Tre'Davious White. But I think Ward looks pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So we'll see there. But the linebackers and safeties,
Right.
So
yeah, just one of those rosters that really has a whole lot of variance of what they could do.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see. Obviously, I don't want to be Colin Coward here, but some of these comments and stuff by Baker Mayfield just kind of has me just like, come on, dude. Like, I know that's part of the persona. He's always the chip on his shoulder guy, but sometimes it's a little bit much for me. Right.
There's a point where you just shut up and just go shut him up with your play.
Which he does. But I need to, I don't know. There's a lot of expectations this year. We'll see how it all stems together. And I mean, let's say, he was calling out Duke Johnson the other day in a press conference. Well, what happens when he calls out OBJ if he, doesn't have a great game? What's the effect there? I don't know. There's just, seems like there could be a chance for some blow up there.
Right.
So we'll see. And especially with Freddie Kitchens, because who knows with him. So.
Yeah. What did you think of the comment the other day when one of the players said, Freddie acts like he hasn't figured out that he's head coach?
I don't know what to make of that. I hadn't heard that. I think that is a player said that. Do we know which player? Was that kind of under the... I guess it doesn't matter. That could be taken multiple ways. It could be like he's still kind of star-eyed and like, working out with the guys. Like he's not the, how would you say, let it go to his head, which is a good thing. Or it could be like he hasn't really taken that mantle. So I guess that's a wait and see. But without context and knowing the player and everything, I wouldn't read too much into it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it could be one of those players just kind of making a funny comment of, hey, he's still thinking he's offense coordinator, being out here with the offense, those kind of things. I don't know. We'll see. I really don't know what kind of coach he's going to end up being.
Yeah,
I really hadn't heard. I hadn't really heard much about him until he went to the Browns there and became head coach.
Yeah, there was a funny clip on Hard Knocks a while back where it was like between him and Hugh Jackson. Him and Todd Haley had some comments and some ideas, and Hugh Jackson was not having it. And just kind of a funny juxtaposition because now Kitchens is the head coach and Hugh Jackson is, I don't know, laying in trash somewhere. Something like that. Wherever all the bad coaches go.
Right.
All right, well, we still got 12 more teams to get to, but we should probably take another break here. So we'll be right back.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Alrighty, and we are back on the Building the Broncos podcast. I am Nick along with Carl, and we have 12 more teams to get to on the power rankings here. Won't take as long because we have talked about some of these teams. So number 12 for me, I have the Steelers. AFC North, I don't think it's a great division. Baltimore's a question mark. Bengals I have is trash. Browns are an unknown. I think more talented, but Steelers just a safer bet. So I have them at 12, right before the Browns. And you have the Browns here. So I guess you think the Browns are going to finish ahead of the Steelers then?
I do. I mean, I do believe in Baker Mayfield enough, and I think they have a few more pieces around them that make me a bit more excited. I just feel like there's more building in Cleveland, where Pittsburgh, they've lost a lot. And I know some of it was they didn't even have some of it last year with Le'Veon Bell and stuff like that, and they still did pretty darn good. But Ben Roethlisberger, I really don't trust his health right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a wait and see, and that's some toxicity there at the Steelers organization. Number 11 for me, I have the Green Bay Packers, and that's a team that, I mean, obviously Rodgers' health is a big thing, but I do like some of the moves they made, especially in free agency. Adrian Amos, they brought in Zadarius Smith, they brought in, who's the other edge rusher they brought in? Preston Smith. They brought in Smith and Smith. So, and I like that defensive line. I mean, Mike Daniels, Kenny Clark, pretty good. So I think this is a team, if that offensive line can get going, Rodgers can stay healthy. I mean, arguably the best quarterback in football. They can go pretty far, but it's a tougher division with some pretty good defenses in it as well. But I got the Packers here at 12.
I have them a little bit higher than you.
Yeah.
And part of it is I do expect especially new coaching staff. I think actually they were a team that just really needed some newness.
It got stagnant.
It did. It really did. And you could tell that Rodgers was just kind of getting frustrated with where things were. And so for me, I like what they did on defense. I like some of their pieces that they added. And like you said, Amos, Smith, and Smith. I like what they did in the draft. I thought they added some nice pieces throughout the draft. And I don't know. I think this is a team. I mean, with Aaron Rodgers, if he can stay healthy, it's hard to really bet against him. And it does hurt. They're playing in a tough division. I mean, Minnesota looks like a pretty top team. You, of course, got the Chicago Bears, who finished as the top team last year. So I don't know. They're a team I could see finishing anywhere in their division. But with Aaron Rodgers, it's hard for me to place him below, like, say, 12.
Yeah, that seems fair. But I mean, last year what were they picking? 12th. So we'll see. They're a team that, and their head coach tore his ACL, right? Like, already crap is going down. So
it's true. That is true.
All right, and you have the Texans at 11, very high there for a team with such a trash offensive line.
Right. I guess that's just how much I believe in Deshaun Watson, Hopkins, and their defense. There's just so many things that I like about their team that I'm willing to overlook the offensive line just a little bit.
A team that barely won in Denver with their head coach, who now the general manager's fired, correct? Like, that just happened, and Houston has no idea what's going on as far as the media. I don't know. I like Watson a lot too, but he's going to have to take another step, and he's going to have to stay healthy. So pray for Deshaun Watson. Thoughts and prayers.
There you go.
Number 10, you have the Packers and I have the Cowboys. Don't have to get too much farther into that. Number 9, I have the Chicago Bears. I still think they have the best division or best defense in that division. I like the offensive line's direction. I like the weapons there. Yeah, Anthony Miller needs to take another step, but they got Allen Robinson. They got a guy like Adam Shaheen, hopefully going to take another step. Trey Burton, fun weapons. This team will go as far as Mitch Trubisky takes them, and I'm not sure how far that is. But for now, also I think they were the healthiest team in football last year, which is something that normally the teams that have a lot of injuries tend to stay the teams that have a lot of injuries, but teams that are the healthiest, that tends to be highly variable with a lot of luck involved. So I don't think that will happen. And losing defensive staff, Fangio, Donatello, probably a little regression on that defense. Still got a really good defensive roster, though. And we'll see with Trubisky. That's probably the biggest thing.
He is. I mean, he's the biggest piece of them being a Super Bowl contender or possibly missing the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
When you're looking at that roster. But you're right. There's enough players around him. When you're talking about building a roster around a rookie, a quarterback on a rookie contract, Chicago's done one of the better jobs in football. I mean, like I said, the offensive line looks pretty strong when you're looking at it. I mean, it's not great by any means. It's not one of the top 5 in football, but it's still good enough. Like I said, weapons around him. I love Anthony Miller as a wide receiver. Adding Cordero Patterson, kind of another interesting weapon. Riley Ridley added to the group. And so those are some of the more depth guys when you're looking at it. But even then, running back, Tariq Cohen, one of the more explosive players in football, Mike Davis, David Montgomery, that's a nice piece to add to that roster there. And yeah, the defense, probably the best defense in football last year. And for the most part, kept most of the pieces. Amos is gone. Anybody else? Is that the only piece that's missing?
Bryce Callahan?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I guess he wasn't a full-time starter, I guess you could say.
Up there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that fifth defensive back deserves to be called a starter even more so than a nose tackle.
That's true. That is very true. Although their nose tackle is Eddie Goldman. So
who's pretty good.
Yeah. But no, for the most part, that defense is still there. And some really, really nice pieces to work with. And if you're talking about linebacker cores, one of the better linebacker cores in football as well. And so I do expect them to stay a very, very strong team.
Injuries. We'll see.
Yeah, I have them one spot even higher than you. I have them at 8. You have them at 9. So we just have Atlanta Falcons. I mean, if we're getting into the next one here at 8, you have them at 8. I have them at 9.
Yep. I really think this Falcons team is a dark horse. I know they finished picking 14th or something this past season, and they were struggled, but they had some serious bout of injuries. Deion Jones and Keanu Neal. I mean, that's probably the best 2 players on that defense, and along with Grady Jarrett, but added to that defense. And I really like Matt Ryan. It's going to be an experiment with the 2 rookie offensive linemen, but Julio Jones. I don't know. I think Matt Ryan's probably one of the more underrated quarterbacks in football too, and I'm a big fan of their head coach. So I think the Falcons are a team that, very explosive, probably arguably the fastest defense in football too. Man, they hunt. So getting healthy is a big thing for them. So I like the Falcons a lot.
You forgot about their best player on their team, Tyson Brilo.
Yeah, he's probably not going to start, though, because McGarry. But
right, McGarry probably takes his spot. You're right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see your whole right side of your offensive line being rookies for sure. But no, they do. They look like a very strong roster. They are playing in a tough division, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Julio Jones, it's always tough to tell whether he's going to stay healthy or not.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, even without him, they still have Calvin Ridley, Mohamed Sanu, Austin Hooper's a pretty good tight end for him there, and Devonta Freeman, very good running back for their system. And
Calvin Ridley looked pretty good last year.
He did, especially early on in the season.
For a rookie wide receiver, they normally take a year.
Right. But we said he was one of the more pro-ready wide receivers to enter the draft in a long time.
Good route runner.
Yep.
That'll happen.
And, hey, it showed up, so there you go. But, no, I do. I like their defense, too. Like you said, they got a lot of nice pieces there to work with. And so, I don't know. They're a team that really could compete if they can stay healthy. They've struggled to stay healthy, though, lately.
Yeah, blowing that Super Bowl probably put him in a curse, so I probably shouldn't have had him this high. But, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Deion Jones and Keanu Neal being back, I mean, that's outside of Matt Ryan. Outside of Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, obviously, those are their dudes. And getting them back, I think, is going to be a huge boost for this team. So we'll see.
All right, well, moving on to number 7 here, you have the Los Angeles Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're getting into some AFC West teams because, I mean, we had the Broncos and Raiders up top. Now we're looking at some of the top teams in football. This is why the division is so tough. I have the Colts here.
Mm.
And I was torn on the Colts.
Yeah.
The tough part for me was how they closed out the season. That playoff loss was just so bad. They just looked so bad. Andrew Luck his arm looked like it was about to fall off. And so there's a little bit of that. I mean, he should bounce back, another year removed from his shoulder injuries, all those kind of things. And they have some of the weapons, though, I guess I have a little bit of problem with. Devin Funchess, paid big money to him. I thought they way overpaid for him. I like T.Y. Hilton. I like Paris Campbell that they added to the group. I like their tight end group. Eric Ebron seems to really emerge for him. Jack Doyle's number 2 tight end. Nice weapon there as well. But I don't know. I guess there's just some of that where I'm not as impressed with some of the pieces around him. I do like the offensive line. They are one of the top 10 offensive lines in football and probably should be even better this year with the rookies now another year older. And then looking at the defense, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not blown away by it.
Yeah, I mean it's solid, and I think they play very, very disciplined football. But I mean, Malik Hooker, a year healthy. Pierre Desir really looked like a guy who stood out last year, took that next step. Yeah, I really like Marvell Tell, though, they got later. And I mean, Darius Leonard, defensive rookie of the year last year. Taquan Lewis, Kamoka Toure, Ben Banogu, Jabal Sheard, and Justin Houston. I think they got definitely some interesting pass rushers on that edge as well. A lot of depth. And Marcus Hunt last year looked pretty solid as well. I don't love their defense, but I think with the offensive line, how they can control the game, Andrew Luck, a top 7 quarterback. And I actually do like their weapons. I think Funchess isn't great, but as far as an X to pair with Hilton, I like that. And then getting Campbell as well, a very fun player. And then the 2 tight ends, I think probably the best tight end duo in football right now, if Doyle can stay healthy. So I don't know. Right now, like I said the other day, if I'm not picking the Patriots as a team, if I'm putting money down, that is, if I'm not picking the Patriots as a team to go to the Super Bowl right now for the AFC, I'm probably picking the Colts just because the Chiefs and the Chargers, I think they'll probably beat up on each other. And just that adds, risk. I don't think either of those teams run the gauntlet on the road getting to the Super Bowl. So it makes the Colts a little bit safer of a bet, but we'll see.
Yeah, hard to disagree. I believe more in the Chargers than I do the Colts right now because I feel like they have a stronger roster top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that again, it's another team, offensive line, concerning. very concerning for me. And Phillip Rivers, I don't know, doesn't have enough bullets in the arm to last a full season. Because that arm started to look, you talk about Andrew Luck's arm degrading a little bit last year. Terrible weather, and maybe watching him up against Patrick Mahomes made that arm look worse than it was. But I feel like Rivers last year, late in the season, just did not look like he did earlier in the season. So that arm fatigue is definitely something that's real. So we'll see. But I mean, obviously, we'll keep it on the Chargers. That's my number 7 team. Great defense. Linebackers, I'm not sure about. And the offensive line, I'm not sure about. But Derwin James, absolute freak. Love Desmond King. So we'll see. But I mean, I think any of these teams, 7 through even 1, that's probably a tier of themselves. So I'd have no issue with any of them being moved around here.
You're right. He did really struggle at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think he had over the final, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
because he was like an MVP candidate until like the final 6 games. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened?
Yeah. In the final 7 games, he had 11 touchdowns to 8 interceptions.
Yeah.
Not great numbers.
No, they do get Hunter Henry back, which would be good for them, good for him. So that's something to mention.
Okay. Yeah. No, I just, like I said, I like the Chargers a little bit more just because of the entire roster.
Yeah.
Around Phillip Rivers, where he just doesn't have to do as much. Melvin Gordon, I like him as a running back. He's kind of that all-around guy for him. Offensive line, like you said, it has some struggles. I mean, the right side of that offensive line does not look good.
The only one that's worth any poop is Russell Okung.
That's true.
As much as that might offend some Bronco fans, Russell Okung's probably the best left tackle in the division. So
yeah, we'll talk about that in another episode here.
Yeah,
but no, then I just their defense. That's where it really gets me. Pretty darn good defense. I mean, 2 great pass rushers. Bosa, Ingram, obviously just looking very, very strong. Added Jerry Tillery to the middle there. Be interesting to see how he can do as a rookie. But they added Thomas Davis to the linebacker core. We'll see how much he has left in the tank. And Denzel Perryman, he's okay. Nuoso, I thought he really showed well as the season went on last year.
Yeah.
And, of course, then Derwin James, maybe one of the best defensive players in all of football.
Sigh.
Casey Hayward, of course, he's looked really good. Desmond King, very, very good for that secondary. And so they got, like I said, it's just the depth when you're looking at top to bottom roster. There's some holes, but every roster has holes. But you're looking at some very, very good players. Keenan Allen, one of the best wide receivers in football. Mike Williams really emerged a lot last year. And
you didn't like him. I'm always going to bring that up.
I didn't, and I think he's proven why though I didn't like him.
How so?
I mean, you look at you look at his rookie year. Yes, he was injured, but I mean he still only had he had 95 yards his rookie season, and he emerged this last year. But even in emerging, he still only put up 664 yards.
Yeah.
He's more of a touchdown machine, which I said from the very beginning. He would be a red zone threat because of his size and his ability to box out.
Yeah.
I never disagreed with that part. But I didn't like his route running. I didn't like his ability to be a true number 1. And when they took him at 7th overall, I'm expecting that guy to be a top 5 to 10 receiver in football. And I never saw Mike Williams being that kind of receiver.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but they could have taken John Ross.
That's true. So that would be even worse.
Yeah. All right. We should probably keep it moving here.
Yep.
The Los Angeles Rams next. Good team. I think they're the best wide receiver core in football. Woods, Cooks, and the Cooper Kupp. And I like the tight ends, Tyler Higbee, Everett. Goff is great. Gurley, though, that's a concern. I think the offensive line will take a small step back. And, I mean, that offense looked pretty overmatched in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. So maybe teams will kind of figure out what Bill Belichick did there. So, overloading that box, taking away that zone stretch, and therefore taking away the play action off that. And I don't know, the back 7, don't love the linebackers. I know they signed Eric Weddle, right? That's the team that played Eric Weddle away. Yeah, so solid there, but to lead, older, injured. Marcus Peters did not look great last year.
Overrated.
Always boomer bust. That's one position you really do not want boomer bust on.
Right.
So, yeah, Aaron Donald, still the class of that division, but and Super Bowl contender for sure. I don't know. I can't put them higher than 6 right now.
Okay. I have them at 4.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit higher. Pretty darn good coaching staff, obviously. So that helps. I think they fit well with what they're trying to do on offense. And Todd Gurley, I do expect him to be back a little bit healthier. And maybe not back to his complete form, but I think he'll still be good enough. And like you said, enough weapons around him, pretty good offensive line to work with. Now, some of their guys are a little bit older that they brought in, but they're shooting their shot here by bringing in Clay Matthews, bringing in Eric Weddle. They're pretty much saying, this is our year. We're going all for it here. And so I expect them to still be a very, very strong team competing for the Super Bowl here.
Yeah. And you have the Chiefs at 6.
I do. And some of this is, it sounds like Tyreek Hill's going to play, but I do still expect some regression when you're talking about Mahomes. Every quarterback that has had a season like him has had regression the next season. Now, how much of a regression, we'll kind of see how that plays out. But you did see them drop off a little bit more as the season went on when they lost their running back. And I don't know. I see some regression there. I think defensively, they're still not a great team. I think they added some nice pieces on the defense, but it cost them a lot. Frank Clark cost them, first and third round pick?
Yeah.
Chris Jones is still not happy that he doesn't have a new contract. So we'll see how that plays out. Linebacker core-wise, you got Anthony Hitchens, Reggie Ragland, and I think Damian Wilson or Dorian O'Daniel, however you want to look at that group. Not great.
Darren Lee.
They overpaid big time for a couple of those guys. They added Tyrann Mathieu, but I'm not a big fan of his.
Yeah, he hasn't looked the same since that injury in Arizona. Solid
Right.
for Houston, but not great.
Right. And then you look at the cornerback group, not great.
Yeah.
Kendall Fuller is okay, but when we're looking at when I'm looking at secondaries of the AFC West, I don't think I'd put them a 4th. Maybe the Raiders. I guess that's a tough throw up there, but that's just showing how bad they are.
Yeah.
And so I still expect the teams are going to be able to score on them. I think a year of tape on Mahomes will help out. We'll see how that plays out. I can't trust.
Man, I agree, but at the same time, heated stuff. It's how the hell do you guard that?
Well, I understand, and I still have him as a top 3 quarterback in football.
Yeah,
but like I said, I do expect some regression. Sammy Watkins, we'll see how he holds up for an entire year. They added Mecole Hardman, but we'll see how he does as a rookie. I don't know. There's just enough things there that I have him just a little bit lower.
All right, that's fair. For me, we'll see about Tyreek Hill. Just because he's not pressing charges doesn't mean the NFL isn't or shouldn't put a suspension on him. But we'll see. But number 5 for me, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Talked about them a lot. You have the Chargers there. So maybe we should make a bet there. Maybe there's something there. Number 4, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. I really like their roster. I like the offensive line is obviously one of the better ones in football. Carson Wentz, when healthy, is great. Doug Peterson, a great head coach, and they can get after the quarterback in a multitude of ways. I don't think their defensive line depth is as good as it has been. Michael Bennett's gone. Chris Long's gone. They really need Derek Barnett to step up, but Fletcher Cox probably the second best interior defensive lineman in football. So, and it's a pretty darn good defensive backfield as well. I really like Malcolm Jenkins. Not great, but they played pretty well together. And again, the offense is really good. So I like the Eagles a lot there. And you have the Rams at 4. So, but yeah, we already talked about them. We can keep moving.
Right.
Number 3, Chiefs. Tyreek Hill. We'll see, but you have the Saints at 3.
Yep. And I don't like the Saints quite as much as you do, but I still like them as a very big time Super Bowl contender there. They're another team that's really trying to do everything possible to
to win a Super Bowl while they still have their quarterback, Drew Brees. I mean, you got to love Alvin Kamara, one of the most explosive weapons in all of football. Michael Thomas, top 7 receiver in football, added Jared Cook, very good tight end. I think he's only going to be helped so much more by having Drew Brees, obviously. Very good offensive line. I mean, probably one of the top, 5 in the NFL?
Yeah, that's probably top 5, I would say. So got to see. They lost Max Unger, but that's a really good offensive line.
Yeah. Defensively, there's some holes on that defense.
They're pretty good.
Eli Apple, we'll have to kind of see if he can continue his resurgence.
Yeah.
Marshawn Lattimore, obviously, very, very good, strong player there. Decent safety group there. I mean, added Chauncey Gardner, so we'll see how he does as a rookie. I like that one. And Marcus Davenport, I don't think he lived up quite to the hype of what they were hoping for when you give up an extra first-round pick to go get this guy.
Hey, he was Pro Football Focus's highest-rated edge rusher last year as a rookie.
Was he? Well,
I'm just, yeah, okay.
That bothers me quite a bit.
Subtle shot, yeah.
Yeah, I know. When he has 4.5 sacks and our boy has 12. But hey, whatever. We'll see how their careers play out. I just think that they get so wrapped up in, hey, we thought this guy was going to be great coming out of college. We're going to make him great in the NFL. But that's for here. That's for another day. But no, they do. They have a very, very strong roster. Drew Brees obviously makes that whole thing go. Strong coaching staff as well. Plenty to like about this team. I am just a little bit lower than you, obviously, here. I have them at 3. You have them at 2. It just, I don't know. Like you said earlier, you can interchange a lot of these teams.
Yeah. I really like Rankins and Cam. They just paid Cam Jordan, which is good for the team, the locker room there. And Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. I mean, it's a fun team. So I got them number 2. I have the Chiefs number 3. And I guess we can move on to number 1. You're number 2. You have the Patriots. So why not the Super Bowl champions 1?
Well, I mean, when you lose a player like Gronk.
Yeah. Did they lose him?
Do what?
Did they actually lose him?
Well, he retired.
There's some talk that they don't think Gronk is going to be quote unquote retired when real meaningful football gets underway.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I mean, we're judging things on where they are right now.
Yeah.
I can't look at them as the best roster in football.
If they have Gronk.
If they have Gronk, that changes things.
Okay.
I will be honest, that does. I mean, I like what they did with their draft. I mean, adding N'Keal Harry to the wide receiver core really gives them an actual guy that could be a number 1 wide receiver. They haven't had that for a while. Obviously, Julian Edelman, but we'll see how he is. He's another year older. They got a pretty strong offensive line. I mean,
they get your boy Isaiah Wynn back.
They do. I'm excited to see what he can do for him. Sony Michel showed pretty darn good for a rookie this past year. And defensively, they're just the team that knows how to use guys.
Yep. Always on the forefront.
I mean, how they use Kyle Van Noy. When he was coming out of college, I just said, man, I love this guy, but you got to go to a team that knows how to use him. And he struggled when he first came into the NFL. And when he went to Detroit, then he gets traded for pennies on the dollar, comes to the Patriots, and boom, becomes a great player. I do want to see how they can do with getting pass rush, because right now, I mean, they have Michael Bennett, who we'll see how he is at his age. Yeah. Is there anything else really there, though?
I mean, not great. I did really like Rivers coming out of the draft, but he tore his ACL's rookie year, so we'll see. From Youngstown State. And our Dante Hightower really good, and probably the best cornerback in football right now in Stephen Gilmore. So Bill Belichick knows what's up. So I'll give him that's a huge boost there. And obviously offensive line, Dante Scarnecchia and Tom Brady. So they're my number 1. I have the Saints number 2 for me. And your number 1 is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I need to hear about that.
Okay. Well, I mean, a little bit is I really believe in your boy at the quarterback position, Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a great year. I like their receiver core and Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson. I think they got great complementary pieces there. Nelson Aguilar. I mean, adding Jordan Howard to the running back group.
Miles Sanders.
Yeah. I mean, those are some nice pieces to add. I can't believe Chicago really wanted to get rid of Jordan Howard. But, I mean, that is what it is. Zach Ertz, top 4 tight end in football. You already said it. They have great offensive line and even added Andre Dillard to even make it stronger. I mean, I would love to have Andre Dillard as a starter, let alone as a backup. And then defense, like you said, Fletcher Cox, he needs to get talked about more.
Yeah.
He really does. Added Malik Jackson. I mean, yes, he's not the best player out there, but he, again, being next to Fletcher Cox, he should have some good opportunities. Brandon Graham has been a great player for him for quite a while here. And then I do like their secondary. You got Sidney Jones another year removed from his injury. You got Ronald Darby, Jalen Mills, and their cornerback core. It's not elite, but it's good enough. And then safety position, again, I mean, it's just one of those groups where they have enough pieces. When you look at the whole, it looks like a very, very strong defense. And then you look at the offense and you go, as a whole, this looks like a really, really strong unit. And so barring injuries, I just think that this is one of the top to bottom. When you're putting pieces against other teams, you just really like how they come out. And I like their coaching staff. I like what they're doing. They seem to have things figured out.
Well, all right. That seems fair to me. All right. And we should probably wrap up so we can record the next show for you guys. That's going to wrap up this episode of Building the Broncos, powered by Overtime Media. You can find Carl on Twitter, at Carl Dumler MHH, and myself, at Kendell MHH. Make sure you head on over to Mile High Huddle, an affiliate of 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports Digital, to find more content covering the Denver Broncos. Head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and a comment, as your support can help us continue to bring you our Denver Bronco deep dives. You can follow the Building the Broncos podcast and all our other great audio content by subscribing to the Huddle Up podcast wherever you listen to your shows. You can follow us on Twitter, at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. For Carl, I'm Nick, wrapping up another episode of the Building the Broncos podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to enjoy these next 5 to 6 weeks of downtime in the Broncos, bringing you more NFL-centric stuff. Just, if you guys have any ideas or anything, hit us on Twitter. It'd be great. And we'll see you guys soon. Go Broncos.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.